Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the stands for evil.
And I'm Ted the Gamer.
Yeah, that seems right. And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. Tonight we have Return to Deepwood, Pennsylvania. So, Return to Deepwood is the sequel to The Lost Town of Deepwood, Pennsylvania. And both of them are by the Dalek Emperor on Reddit NoSleep, as she's also known, C.K.Walker of Baraska fame. So before we get too far ahead, though, let's give our initial recommendations and such. I'm going to recommend this one.
I am going to conditionally recommend this one.
Okay.
I'm to add to the complexity of this. I'm just going to partially recommend this
Fair.
for different reasons. No, actually, maybe conditional. I didn't.
My recommendation is all. I'll be honest. My recommendation is also kind of conditional, but like I'm deciding I'm not going to do like half-ass job and actually just like follow through with like either a black or white option. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But let's find out why we gave such complex initial recommendations. Starting with the rundown, featuring Katie or Caitlin. So Caitlin, 25 now, is trekking around central Pennsylvania on tightening funds as she searches for traces of lost towns in her pursuit of the demon that she and Jamie unleashed well over a decade ago.
Also, hang on.
Yes.
When you led with Caitlin 25 now, I immediately thought that she's like a robot now named Caitlin 25. Please continue.
Nice. Well, yeah.
That's immediately where my brain.
This isn't. Well, you're. Yeah. This is now in the 2077.
Yep.
2070s. But anyway, since those days, life has spiraled for poor Caitlin, and she finds herself alone and traumatized in her pursuit of the truth. Eventually, as things look dour, she catches a break and finds the town of Lannenberg, a college town with a museum exhibit showing 14th century Judeo-Christian artifacts. In this exhibit, she finds the statue itself, slightly altered in pose, smack dab in the middle display, and among so many ignorant tourists and visitors. So, she soon learns that a young man, similar to her age, in fact, by the name of Jameson Scott, is in charge of the exhibit and statue. Apparently, he is a wealthy businessman with several patents in the tech industry and has a great interest in Judeo-Christian artifacts. And what's more, he seems to know the true nature of this demon statue, as Caitlin finds that there are wards placed on the display around the demon. After hearing a lecture from him at the local university and confronting him about the wards, Caitlin gets invited to his private study. It's here that it's revealed that yes, Jameson knows the true nature of the demon and has it on display with protective wards to appease its desire to be worshipped, or in this case, be seen and admired. Apparently, this has worked to keep it at bay since he first bought it at auction from the government, who found it in the woods, and after Jameson tried to destroy it himself, to no avail. Apparently, the demon, named Metaraxis, if not appeased, will not only devour the person, but everything in reality about that person, and even the city they live in, with all the people therein, with reality filling in the gaps haphazardly in the wake of that town or that person's disappearance. Despite reassurances, warnings, and seeming to be truthful with her, Caitlin steals Jameson's museum key and goes off to confront the demon, in an effort to show Mr. Scott the danger he's playing around with. We shall discover the outcome of these actions in the finale to come. Finn, for now. So that was our rundown, and I suppose we'll move on to everyone tolerates the Grand Inquisitions. At this point, I've got quite a number of them, to be honest.
Okay.
So I will start with this one here. Eager to be done with it, I hadn't bothered to ask where to find room 217. So, welcome to my tense talk.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't bothered to ask. Like, needs an ED at the end of bother.
Or didn't bother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't bother. Yeah, I didn't bother, or I hadn't bothered. Either one would go.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then the next one. And if he had been real, then so had everything else. So the than there is the THAN when it should be THEN. Then.
Mm-hmm.
The next one I have. But none came, and when I woke again, it was buried under a pile of legal pads and maps and suffering of sore back. This took me a second time to read to really understand what was going on. That like she had woken up under the legal pads and maps and with the stiff and suffering from a sore back. I think maybe it should maybe another I in there or even like a comma might help. So it's like, but none came, and when I woke again, comma, I was buried under a pile of legal pads, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I did remember stumbling over it as well.
Yeah, for a second I was like, am I in the nitpick nook?
No.
You have to tell me if I'm in the nitpick nook.
You normally put yourself in there. We never put
Yeah.
you in there.
Well, it's just from all the glaring that you guys give me. This is like, really, review cultist? Really? That?
Glaring through the internet.
Yes, I can feel it.
Video call, yeah.
Yes, I can feel it through the airwaves.
Mhm.
All right, moving on to the next thing I have here. Eventually, I began to notice that periodically there would a gap. I see we're on caveman speech again. But this is the writer of Baraska, so it's the progenitor. True. Yeah. But yeah, the fix here would be that periodically there would be a gap. And moving on to the next thing here. So the creature, as I'd taken to calling it, could technically give life in the process of filing in the hole of previous existence, but not very good life. So I don't think it's supposed to be in the process of filing in the holes. I think it's supposed to be, it just needs an extra L, and it in the process of filling in the hole of previous existence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to preface a lot of my these grammar inquisitions are really like I acknowledge that they're very simple like mistakes that like when you're typing really fast like you sometimes just do like a typo or you miss a word and stuff like that. So I'm not really docking the story points for it, although there are a lot of these mistakes, and I'm surprised it didn't go through like a round of editing and get caught before it was posted.
Yep.
But did you have something, Gamer?
No, actually, I double checked. It didn't. No.
Okay. Move on to the next thing here. Even since Middlesbrough, I had struggled with school and life in general. I feel like it should be ever since Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one I have. I'd seen the museum that morning, and I knew exactly where to find it. You just need to remove that first where there. So it's like, and I knew exactly where to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a word that I did not know about. I'm going to start with this one here. My heart beat a million miles a minute as the docent opened the double doors, and my group was shuffled in. So double, no. No, it's what the heck? Like, so I read like this came up like one during the guide of the museum, and it's like, what the hell's a docent? And then I looked it up. Yeah. Noun. So the first description is in certain universities and colleges, a member of the teaching staff immediately below professional rank. But the second one's really, I think, the more apt description. A person who acts as a guide, typically on a voluntary basis in a museum, art gallery, or zoo. Huh. Neat. I learned a word.
Yeah.
And what that profession is, or that like that role is for like the guides at various like academic exhibitions.
Mhm.
And my next thing here, there were a few disappointed groans from the audience, but Jameson Scott smiled and directly a flirtatious wink at no one in particular. Feel like it should be and directed a flirtatious wink at no one in particular.
I don't know how I read past all of this.
I honestly, dude, it wasn't like I was reading through it and then I was like, wait, what's wrong with this? Also, I'll fully admit I was reading the story in a Google Doc, so it automatically gives me like squiggly
Yeah.
lines underneath. So
You get the cheat codes.
yeah. But there were a few of these that I was like, I will say also, there's a few times that the squiggly lines don't work for me. Like it's like, no, that seems right. Like
Yeah.
based on my history in creative writing and such. But I shall move on. Scott clicked to the next slide in his sideshow, and the demon statue appeared against a blood red background. Blah 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 blah.
Is it sideshow?
It says sideshow. I think it's supposed to say like the next slide in his slideshow.
Probably, yeah.
I also, if you don't want to have like slide next to slideshow, like maybe like the slide in his presentation.
Or the next image in his slideshow.
Yeah, exactly, like that kind of thing. So I'm going on to this one here. He proclaimed that those who prayed to him and brought him sacrifice would not only be spared but also give gifts of everlasting youth and resilience. I think you just need to remove the "and" there, so it's like, so he proclaimed that those who prayed to him and brought him sacrifice would not only be spared but also given gifts of everlasting youth and resilience. So yeah, not don't add an "and" or, but it was like very indecisive. It was like "and" or "but."
Both.
Yeah, porque los nos or porque los dos. No. Moving on to the next thing I have. This would have happened many times over the centuries. I feel like it should either be "this would happen many times" or "this would have happened many times over the centuries."
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one, I have a couple more, guys. Like I have about like maybe 4 more. So,
Okay.
first, Scott begin. It's supposed to be first, Scott began. And then the next one I have is, it could make the statue move if I could make the statue move just an inch or two, maybe even a turn of its head, it was be on the museum security tapes, and I could prove the thing wasn't truly dormant. So that "was" there, I think, should be a "would." So it's like,
Would have.
oh yeah, I was like, so maybe even a turn of its head, it would be on the museum security tapes, or like you said, it would have been. Oh, what? No.
Yes. Or that, yes.
Yeah, it would have been on the security tapes. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then the second to last one I have. But even if he being honest about his past, Scott was still lying to me about something. But even if he was being honest about his past.
Mhm.
And then my last one here. Dim overheard lights give the room an eerie and foreboding glow.
What?
Sorry, the dim overhead lights
Oh,
gave the room an eerie and foreboding glow. It's like they're really simple like mistakes, but they completely like goofify the sentence.
I mean, the lights can talk and have conversations if they
Yeah,
want.
dim overheard lights. Like, hey, what do you think they're doing over in the South Wing? Just humming and shit. That's all I hear them say. All I hear is humming from that room. I know that is neither a Pennsylvania accent or probably even like really a great New Yorker accent. I don't know why I give them a New Yorker accent.
You had to pick an accent. That was the first
Yeah.
one there. New York was referenced here. You're fine.
Oh yeah, because the exhibit's going to New York next month.
Yep.
By the stories. timeline. So yeah. That is the end of my Grammar Inquisition. There were quite a few of them. They were all fairly minor, but there were numerous.
Yeah.
So, over the span of the 20 pages, the story kind of builds up to. So, Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right. So the first thing here is that there's a lot of italicized words that are peppered throughout the story.
I did not notice a single goddamn one, and I didn't even have to reformat my Google Doc this time, just so that they weren't purged. I read it as is, like once I copy pasted it, and like it keeps all the built-in like formatting from the original like website. So yeah, I did not even notice a goddamn italics.
Yeah, and it uses it inconsistently. Like we get the signage, so Landenberg next 17 exits is italicized. And then when we get the flyer,
we get the
it's
flyer?
hard to...
Probably the flyer, brochure, or whatever it is.
Yeah, statue of the demon Metraxus is italicized, and then at another point, it's basically a thought bubble. Oh wait, here's another one here. The description on the plaque, the 14th century representation of the demon Metaraxis, artist unknown, is italicized.
And is there a problem with this?
Well, the thing is that it's fine until, like, because it's all signage, but then we get during the presentation, the lecture, we get easy Christian Grey. I rolled my eyes, and
Yeah, so it's
easy
like
Christian Grey is italicized, so that's more an internal thought as opposed to what we've been getting on plaques and stuff.
Also,
but those plaques are also internal thought because that's for reading them to herself.
yeah, I feel like I'm kind of on Mikey's side. Like I feel like if you're gonna use italics for like a lot of the signage and stuff like that, or for like things that are written down that the character's reading, that would be appropriate. But like then it kind of muddies the water if you're using italics for like other things.
Yeah, like I mean,
like
I'm
actually, I see.
Like,
yeah,
if this was in brackets, it'd be kind of better.
I do see another actually instance where it's not where the italicized is used early on, but not for like signage. Spent driving to the middle of the state and another 2 days aimlessly driving around central Pennsylvania looking for something familiar. A mountain, a water tower, a road, anything is italicized in that entire sentence. And it's the character. Yeah, but I mean, I feel like we already had like maybe put like all caps. Yeah, anything could have been all caps if you wanted like real emphasis for that. But
yeah. Basically, the whole problem is italics are annoying because you don't see them half the time, and they have 1,000 uses.
Yeah, they're literary ninjas.
Yeah. Meanwhile, which you would think I would like them for that, but no.
No, they're the bad ninjas.
Yeah.
I guess it's not literary. I guess it's like format ninjas because like I would consider like bolding and italicized and underlining a formatting system rather than literary. But I digress.
You do.
So yeah, just general italicized words. We don't like them.
Take kindly to italicized words around here.
Always eating their spaghetti and the meatballs and their lasagna and the oh god, those filthy italic. I mean italic.
Careful.
Hey, I as an italics myself.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for indulging that bit.
That is amazingly stupid. Loved it.
All right. So my next one here is a transition. So I feel there needs to be more transition from going from the museum to the lecture hall, because of the quote here. I would definitely be there. I had a few things to say to this guy, and I wasn't leaving Pennsylvania until I did. I sat in the back of the auditorium, as was my custom.
Yeah, it could have used sorry.
Either a breakup or it's explained that she doesn't know where the building is. So it could easily have another section of her asking someone how to get to that building.
Yeah. I mean, it's clearly supposed to be like a scene change,
Yeah.
yeah, like a film scene change, but in this, if that's the case, I think maybe a horizontal line separating the two scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something to separate them, to show that it is a scene change, not just have sudden whiplash, well, I'm over there now.
Yeah.
We're at the museum. Oh, not anymore.
Well, apparently this entire town is basically just one big open air college based on people's descriptions of it. Which is kind of what a college town in America seems to be from my experience of driving through Pennsylvania one summer. So
okay. Anyway, and then I have a conjunction junction.
Okay.
And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
It was as you'd suspect. Dated, droll, and dusty. It was strange to be back in Pennsylvania after all these years. And I might have believed it too if it weren't for Jamie. And if he had been real, then so had everything else. It had been 13 years since I'd stepped foot in this state, and only for one of them had I considered coming back. But a year ago, my tricks had abruptly stopped working, and it had been too long since I'd come up for air. But none came, and when I woke again, it was buried under a pile of legal pads and maps and suffering a sore back. But how many other cities with similar populations were gone because of me? It wasn't something I wanted an answer to. But it was as if I'd never lived here at all. But that's 90 miles away. Because they're broke, someone yelled from the back office. And it was all I had. It just had to be. It was something you'd only notice if you were looking for it. So the creature, as I'd taken to calling it, could technically give life in the process of filing in the whole of previous existence, but not very good life. And if Lannenberg was still there, that meant the creature hadn't made it that far yet. But it hadn't claimed Lannenberg yet. Or was it just slowly moving? And yet, here I was. But I didn't need spray paint to find my way anymore. But I can give it to you for free if... He let his voice trail off suggestively. It was a larger city for this part of the state, around 55,000 residents, mostly due to the fact that Lannenberg hosted a state university. It was progressive, young, educated town filled with hipsters and young professionals. But songs take time to write, even for the most talented. It could have been me, once. But I hadn't grown up like them. But for the 5th time in as many days, I had to ask myself, what now? But, as fate would have it, it only took half a day to find what I was looking for. It was well past noon, and I had stopped at a small cafe to eat a sandwich. Or maybe because it was the only piece of litter I had seen all morning. Or, just maybe, it was simply because I was supposed to. But, for whatever reason, when a bright red flare blew past my feet, I reached out to step on it. And below that was a description of the exhibits to be unveiled. It was too much of a coincidence, nothing to be ignored. It was only 3 blocks away, and I got there in under 5 minutes. Flew up the building steps and stumbled straight to the cashier window. It took the longest 20 minutes of my life, but we finally came to the room I'd been waiting for. But I only had eyes for the thing in the middle. It was larger than I remembered, but every detail of its face and body was exactly as I'd remembered, though it was positioned differently now. But now it was positioned as if ready to leap off the stone square that it stood upon. Its tail was paused in midair, instead of wrapped idly around its legs as it had been before. It wasn't particularly scary, just an empty, stony face, far from the hungry, animated one it became when it woke. And like the crucifixion statue in the damned church, it had eyes only for me. And finally, the jewel of this exhibition, a granite statue from the 14th century. It is unique in its size as well as its crisp detail, especially for something so old. Its eyes followed my every step. It hid the words inscribed on the front of the granite stand that Jamie and I couldn't read those many years ago. And then I saw what I didn't know I'd been looking for, the triangles. And once I found one, I found another, and another. So that's how they're doing it. It was insane. It belongs to Jameson Scott. The docent, feeling the exchange was over, turned back to finish her conversation. Its eyes had never strayed from me. And how did he know about the wards? Or did this Scott person know what he was doing? And I guess she wasn't wrong. But he eats more than the flesh of man. He eats their homes, their histories, and their souls. And this is why Metaraxis is an unknown. Or there wasn't for many centuries. It is believed that several ancient civilizations took him up on his offer. They sang his songs, built his temples, and created beautiful artwork in his likeness, such as the one in your museum, to praise the demon and reap his gifts. And this would have gone on for many years until a name was called that refused to be sacrificed. It could have been 1 person a year or 5 a day, and no one would know but the demon himself. And it was. And your wards, they're bullshit. It appeared on government land in the middle of nowhere, according to the surveyor who found it. It's just a piece of granite to them, and they needed the money. It's a curious thing, because I have personal history with Metarexes, and you're willing to stake people's lives on that. And for our efforts, the statue has remained dormant. It won't be destroyed by any tools of man. And, believe me, Caitlin, I pay dearly for my attempts. Almost everything I love is gone. And just how did you escape the creature when it came for you? But I wasn't backing down. Because I've seen its face. And who did it take from you? Because he knows you. And you know he could break the wards if he wanted to. But I won't risk your life. It was a lie, but I was curious. It was an unsatisfactory answer. But I knew I had to see it again. It was madness, having it here. It didn't fit. It just didn't, unless Jameson Scott was telling the truth. But even if he being honest about his past, Scott was still lying to me about something. Or would he say I was stupid for risking my life? Finn.
Wow. That was it was basically a synopsis, like a like a sort of like stream of consciousness, like synopsis of the story itself, yet still longer than my rundown.
Yes.
Also, I did take it. There's one thing that stood out to me because I think I misheard you say it. Is like, I blew up the building steps. What? Oh, he said, or you probably said, she flew up the building steps.
Yeah. Did not blow them up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Maybe that's in the next entry.
Yeah. I mean, given her plan at the end, I wouldn't put it past that.
Yeah. And for those unaware, Mikey grabs these sentences throughout the story that start with its, ands, or buts, because there's always better words to use. And sometimes when you string them together, it comes out with hilarious results.
Indeed. Actually, honestly, like while listening to it, there were a couple of ones where it's just like but, and I was like looking at I was actually keeping like I was trying to keep up with as you were reading them. Like I had to skim down a couple of pages.
Yeah.
But when I read, it's like, yeah, that but does not need to be there at all. It can just be as is, like without the but.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't even need a however right now. Just remove the but. But yeah. I suppose we'll move on to Ted the Gamer's Gamer in Yellow. Or sorry, Grammar in Yellow.
Yep.
Who's this Gamer in Yellow? What? Anyway.
I have no idea. So I only have a couple left. This one I feel like these two sentences should be connected because they're the same damn thing.
Okay.
Harrisburg is antiquated yet charming. Sorry. Harrisburg is an antiquated yet charming Pennsylvanian town on the Susquehanna River with roots
I had the same
back to the 18th century. At least that's what the tourism brochure read. Those are two sentences. The second one being at least that's what the tourism brochure read.
Yeah.
But like they're talking about the same thing, so I feel like maybe connect them with the semicolon because it's directly referencing the previous sentence.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think it's probably pronounced Susquehanna.
Sure.
The Susquehanna. Anyone from Pennsylvania who's from that area, or if the Susquehanna actually exists, because actually I didn't check that. I checked a bunch of other things. I checked a bunch of other things in my actual thoughts geographically for the story, but I did not check if the Susquehanna was an actual, or if Harrisburg was an actual place. I probably should have done that.
Wow. I'm waiting. You're Googling this right now.
Oh, okay, sure.
This
What is it, Harrisburg?
Yes. At least Harrisburg.
Okay, fine, Harrisburg. I'm just gonna copy paste that.
I'll do you a solid and get the Susquehanna River.
Susquehanna. Now that I know, I kind of like know. Oh, okay, so Harrisburg does exist.
The
And
Susquehanna
the
River
Susquehanna
exists
is
well.
yeah, it's right next. It's in the middle of it. Where is? I'm now curious though. Where is Harrisburg in? Oh, it's yeah. Where is it in the state? Because she's supposed to be in the central state. Okay, yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's as central as a any kind of city can be in Pennsylvania without going right into like the Allegheny National Forest. So, yeah.
Also, because we can Google it, that means that it will not get wiped from existence.
Yes, unlike Landenberg, which I've got some news about that in the actual thoughts.
Oh.
But sorry, continue on, Ted.
Okay. This next one is right after it. The next sentence, literally. I'd really have to take their word for it. Period. I had researched a lot of Pennsylvania townships in the last year, but this wasn't one of them. So again, that first sentence is just kind of tiny, and I feel like it could be connected because they're talking about the same thing. Mm-hmm. Just a simple comma in between the two would work for me.
Okay.
And then got one more.
Okay.
May or may not have done this one. I don't remember. Either way, it had been 13 years since I'd stepped foot in this state, and only for one of them I had considered coming back. When I first read this, I was like, who is this the one you're considered coming back for? Jamie or Neo, perhaps? But no, it's meant to refer to the most recent year being the only year of the 13 years that she could consider coming back.
Yeah.
So a rewording of that might be, it had been 13 years since I stepped foot in this state, and only this most recent year had I considered coming back.
Yeah, that would definitely.
It just kind of felt clunky.
That's fair. Yeah.
And that's it for my grammar.
All right. Well, we'll move on to actual thoughts then. Gonna start with this one here. At least the creature hadn't made its way here. This city had a population of around 50,000, but how many other cities with similar populations were gone because of me? It wasn't something I wanted an answer to. So actually going off of something we said in the last episode, regarding this creature kind of like following, what if this creature was following Katie or now Caitlin in like across country, basically. I think we had mentioned that that's why they hadn't like how many cities there were like across Canada or across America that had just been like wiped from existence because this creature is like walking across, like stalking her. So if this creature was or had been traveling across country from Pennsylvania to Arizona, which is where Katie ended up, wiping towns and people off from existence on its way to get her, it would be kind of morbidly funny that like when she travels back to Pennsylvania, the creature has just finally arrived to Arizona, and then it just like and now has to turn around and go back in the same direction to go after her. It's like the demon like gets there and then it like senses that she's like traveling across the like by plane like across like overhead and is like, oh come on, well I'll just do another buffet run.
Yeah, just take a scenic route back.
Yeah. Just to put some like humor into the dark seriousness of like the implications of this creature wiping out cities and such. And then the next thing I have here is regards to the some of the geography that is both here and missing, or maybe misplaced in Pennsylvania. I gassed up before I left town and followed the signs to the 320. As promised, it was nothing but dark asphalt for miles. No exits, no exits, rest stops, signs, or even mile markers. This was it. It just had to be. So, yeah, looking it up because I can't help myself when it comes to this kind of stuff. Although apparently I could with Harrisburg and the Susquehanna River.
I know how to pronounce it, but I'm going to purposefully fuck it up every time.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like the town of Lanenburg is a fictionalized town. As is, and actually the road Route 320. While there is a real life counterpart, it's nowhere near, as far as I could tell, the central part of Pennsylvania. It's actually closer to Philadelphia. It's between Chester and, you want to hear another one that's a weird word to say. Sorry for Pennsylvanians. Conshohocken. Conshohocken. I'm sure I'm butchering that name. Conshohocken. Yeah, Conshohocken. Yeah, basically it's
Pennsylvania.
yeah. And the real life Route 32 is anything but like empty asphalt road, like for miles. It is nothing but basically like the extended suburban sprawl that is like leaked out of Philadelphia. And it's just like it's the road just goes right through basically like endless suburbs from Chester to Conshohocken.
So counterpoint.
Yes.
Once the Highway 320 was removed, another road became 320.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Like haphazardly, like being filled in by reality
Because they're
after
all being numbered, so they're
yeah.
being numbered sequentially. So when that's gone, the next one is that now.
Yeah, I actually even had that. I actually even had that excuse in my in brackets in my notes. Like, unless the demon has wiped it from reality, and reality has just reconfigured state infrastructure.
Yep.
It's like, no, it's always been between Chester and that other place. But yeah, that's my geography research for this one is okay. So Lanenburg doesn't exist, although it honestly, like when I was a couple of years back when I was traveling through Philadelphia through Pennsylvania, we did hit up a couple of like university towns, and yeah, this Lanenburg town basically fits the bill of a Pennsylvanian university town. But I'll move on to the next thing I have. Even though it was May, I was still freezing. I hadn't been built for the far north, and my blood had thinned out living in Arizona. Far north. Pennsylvania is not that far north.
It's really not.
It's not even like really. I mean, I suppose it's north in the States, but it's not as far north as like Maine or New York State or well, I mean, I'm even like again neglecting the fact that like we live up in Canada and so that we are the far north, but like for the States, like far north for them would probably be like New York State, Ohio, maybe not Ohio.
Well, Alaska.
New York,
Alaska. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
Alaska.
Yeah, Alaska. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, put the. I was like trying to like look for like the local states like north of Pennsylvania, and then Mikey here just like, what about Alaska? It's the farthest north state.
Alaska, mic drop.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, I just found that really funny. It's just like far north. I'm sure their winters are mild
for us,
but by our standards. Yeah. But I'll move on to the next thing I have here. With my backpack and my age, I probably would have passed for any other college student on campus if it wasn't for the hoodie I had pulled tightly around me. Honestly, I feel like the hoodie just complements your look as a campus goer. So
yeah, how does that make it worse?
Yeah,
I didn't understand that. I did make a note of it, but I also didn't understand that.
Yeah, I think it's just a weird like thing to say because like I mean
maybe because she's looking suspicious.
Maybe yeah. I mean again, you just look like an introverted college kid, which is not that far fetched. Strangely enough, that look, like, while a lot of kids use that look to be like to identify themselves as like to kind of like isolate themselves, they really just kind of conform to a certain archetype in college as like the hoodie wearing college kid.
Also, I'm saying all this wearing a hoodie right now.
Right? Yeah. But I'll move on to the next thing I have here. I walked the downtown area all day. I didn't know what I was doing, where I was going, who I should approach, or what I should ask them. I just knew I was in the right place. I'd been drawn here for a reason. I felt it in my gut. I feel like, I mean, Katie has had basically about a year and has been prepping for this, like memorizing maps and taking down notes and stuff like that. And like, given her investigation stuff, even if she is an introvert, as she's kind of she states she is, she should still probably have a stronger idea of what she wants to do in this, or like how to what questions she wants to ask ask people, or even like come up with like cover stories and so like I feel like at the very least she like
went out on a whim.
Yeah, but like everything that we've gotten so far kind of speaks the opposite, because she like memorized down maps of this place, like, and like she's like trying to figure out where like missing towns are. It's like, did she honestly not expect to like meet people and like ask questions like oh, have you heard of this place and stuff like that? Like that would be like my first thing to do if I was trying to hunt down like a missing town, is I would like try and figure out like what questions I'm going to ask like locals.
But social interaction though.
I guess, yeah, and again, like she does say she's an introvert, but even still, like you'd think like she's so obsessed with this that she would have like been more prepared, even on like
the obsession would supersede that.
Yeah, but I digress. I'll move on to the next thing here. There were about 100 things in that room, all sorts of things, really, sculptures, paintings, pottery, even other statues. But I only had eyes for the thing in the middle. It was larger than I remembered. What?
It sounds like she's attracted to it.
Yeah. And it doesn't help. It was larger than I remembered.
Oh my.
The demon just like, how you doing?
Yeah. Well, and it says later that the demon only had eyes for her, so
yeah. Oh, it's like star-crossed lovers.
Is this a buddy horror?
Yeah, I wish. So yeah, and I'm continuing on though. Not the 12 feet I had guessed. It was closer. It was actually closer to 20. But every detail of its face and body was exactly as I'd remembered, though it was positioned differently now. So like, yeah, basically there's this giant like demon statue in the middle of this like this thing, and all I could think of was like, this creature is really just giving me like demonic gargoyles from Disney vibes, like it just hangs out in as a stone statue during the day, and then at night it becomes like a demon or something. Or that it animates like a statue, or it animates from its statue form. But I'll move on to the next thing I have. Though it was taller than I remembered, I could at least see its face this time. It wasn't particularly scary, just an empty stone face, far from the hungry animated one it became when it woke. So also read demonic gargoyle vibes, but also, what does that actually mean? Like, I was having a really hard time. Like before, in the first part of this, the first part of this story, when they were kids and they saw the monsters like face, and it was like horrible beyond words. Like I could barely describe it, except it had horns and stuff like that. I could let it pass, but in this case, it was like, is it just a dull expression this thing has? Is it like just like a yawning mouth for a face? Or is there a gap where a face should be on the creature?
Yeah, I saw it as a slender man with horns.
Yeah. Oh, I even saw it as like, you know how like you see some of those like statues in like World of Warcraft, like around like the dark portal, where like it's just like a hooded figure and like you don't see anything in the face. It's just like kind of a hollowed out like space. Mm-hmm. Like I was wondering if that was the case for this creature, or like, yeah, it's either like blank face, like a night gaunt or Slenderman, like demonic Slenderman, or is it just like the face is just completely like just a hole that's and there's stuff missing?
Oh, yeah. Or is it like what you first said, and it's just like a dull, kind of boring kind of face, nothing?
Yeah. Oh god, Mikey, it's the expressionless, except better, probably. Oh. Yeah, we didn't. Well, the I think it was the movie that I think it was the horror movie that we watched of the expressionless that ruined it for us. But
oh, I see.
Yeah, but yeah,
I feel like the face could be described a little better.
Yeah, especially since like she's describing it's like, now that I could see it in full, like it with light and stuff like that, it wasn't that scary. It was just blah blah blah. I was like, okay, so like you can actually give us more description now, right? No. You're gonna give us more description now, right? Like it's like Anakin and Padme meme.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll move on to the next thing I have here. this is another similarly in a similar vein to what we just talked about. And then I saw what I didn't know I'd been looking for: the triangles, the symbols I would never forget, etched into the doors of the damn church. The symbols that you did kind of forget to describe in the previous part of the story, because
They were
when
mentioned.
it was mentioned that they were weird symbols that she didn't recognize, but like I feel like she could have like mentioned something that they were like triangular or something like that, because like triangle symbols, they're burned into my memory, like they're exactly like the ones on the doors of the damn church.
Meanwhile,
that I
we
only
did not get a descriptor for it before. Yeah.
Exactly. It is like I kind of wish the symbols from the previous story had been described as triangular.
Yeah, even if you don't want to fully describe it, just say triangular symbols that I don't understand the meaning of.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's another point, I guess, against this story, is that just like kind of like some more description, please. And it kind of goes into from the previous story as well. But like I'm almost wondering if this was a case of like they didn't know what they wanted to call, they didn't know if those symbols were going to come back, or they just like kind of, they wrote that in the first story without really much thought at the time, and then when they went back to write this story, the author was like, oh yeah, I guess I should describe those symbols and give them more significance. Yeah. But move on to the next thing I have here. The museum not only knew what this thing was, they knew about the sigils on the doors of the damn church and were using them to trap the statue here. The revelation was like a punch to the face. Someone was aware of what the statue really was and was blatantly risking innocent lives anyway. It was insane. And this is in regards to like basically Jameson's whole like how he's dealing with this creature and stuff like that, by like having on display with protective wards and such. This could straight up be a gameable thing. Like I could use this in the Secret World, in Shadowrun, sorry Mikey, or any number of like Cthulhu / horror systems, like Esoterrorist, Fear Itself, like just having a group of like wizard caretakers. Wow, caretakers. That's some hardcore dyslexia right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, having some wizard caretakers like holding a demon which they cannot destroy, and able to like kind of keep it from like breaking these wards that they like are the best they could come up with, by having it being appeased by just being looked at by people in a museum exhibit. That's your seed right there, because like then the story is like what happens when like somebody being an obnoxious tourist or like visitor at a museum accidentally like rubs out one of the sigils or wards or something like that while they're trying to take a picture, or while they're just being like what some dumb people are like in museums where they want to touch the exhibits.
Mm-hmm.
And then the demon is unbound and starts stalking through the museum. It becomes a night at the museum, but like the horror version.
Yep. 5 nights at the museum.
Yeah. In a way, I get why they're showing it off at the museum. Like it's an exhibit they feel they can keep under control with these wards. And let's face it, this is the piece that's going to draw people into the museum. This was I wrote this before I realized that, or I found out that Jameson was like super in the know. Like, so this was like, I thought the museum, like some people in the museum were in the know about this. So it's like, if the museum itself was like the one that were keeping control of this thing, of course they're gonna have this thing on exhibit, especially if they have like protective wards keeping it at bay, because this thing has become like the central piece of this exhibit, and running a museum isn't cheap, so they need like some kind of an attraction.
Yep. And it being a museum is a relatively safe place for it to be, because it has 24-hour surveillance and security guards.
Yeah, and there are generally like boundaries that that museums set up for exhibits, and like so it's not 100% fail safe, but it's at least like 99.5% like safe as it is, because like there may only be like one outlier where like somebody might like go and try and touch the statue or like cause some like damage to the wards, and that's just like an accidental thing that can be perhaps like beefed up security could like handle with that or something like that.
compared to like this being just stored in the woods somewhere. Like you have proper security here, where unless you're giving it to like the SCP Foundation, you're not
Exactly.
gonna
Unless,
get better
yeah,
security than this.
yeah, like unless there's a foundation like or an organization, sort of like Jameson, like but like a little bit more beefy and a little bit more like a little bit more
Official and
a little bit more official or a little bit more like know how to deal with this thing. I mean, clearly it's not from the government because the government was just selling this thing at auction because they didn't know what they had. but yeah. Also, this could explain why it didn't get very far. Like Jameson or someone managed to bind it after only a few cities disappeared in the woods. So they caught it a little bit early, so it didn't like just like start wreaking. They didn't just turn Pennsylvania into an empty state.
yeah.
But I'll move on to the next thing I have here. This one's I think it's a pretty obvious revelation, but I'll just hear me out. Jameson Scott. I knew that name, but from where? As our group began to move out of the room, I took one last look at the creature, Metaraxis, and shuddered. Its eyes had never strayed from me. I took my phone out and pulled up Wikipedia on Jameson Scott. I had to know who could be this stupid. He was young, my age, but wealthy, had his own company, and well known in the tech industry for multiple inventions. The word brilliant, pioneer, and industry leader were scattered throughout his Wikipedia page, which had no picture. At the end of the article, under personal life, was a short paragraph about his interest in symbolism and ancient artifacts. Jameson's Jamie, isn't he?
Well, no shit.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm not the only. I'm glad I'm not the only one who saw that, because I was like really for a second I was worried. It's like I really hope the others like get this, because like I was half jokingly calling this out from when I first read Jameson Scott. There's like, oh, Jameson Scott. It's like, it's Jamie. It's gonna be Jamie.
Yeah.
And then
As soon
I
as
read
I
this.
saw his name, I'm like, okay, that's Jamie now.
Yeah, and then I read the rest of like the last two paragraphs that I just quoted, and I was just like, oh no, I can't unsee this. This is clearly Jamie.
Yeah, it has
And
to.
yeah, and like even like later on, like it was like, who'd you lose? It's like she, or like,
Yeah.
and then like I was like, how'd you lose her? It's like I pushed her, like I pushed her away or something like that. It's like, so like, yeah, Jamie when he was younger, like that's why he didn't go to see her. Like that's like he pushed her away to get her out of the town and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, no,
there's
it's
also precedent
yeah.
for like the name being different because Katie's name is different.
I have a theory about that. That's actually, I think, in my notes. I'll pull it up now. With Caitlin.
Sorry, it's not entirely different. It is slightly different.
Yeah, I have two theories for that. So, gonna start with this. Yeah. So yeah, my quote here for this was, and believe me, Caitlin, I paid dearly for my attempts. Almost everything I love is gone. Then I'd put it back where it came from, if the church was even still there, and if I could find it. No one can do that, he laughed. Who did it kill? Who that you loved? I don't know why I cared so much, but I couldn't let it go. I had to know. Scott took a step back, but held his ground. He trailed off. So, staying on my Jamie theory, I guess not really a theory, as it's like pretty much all but confirmed. I just had this really interesting thought. So the demon devours a person and all that they were in reality, and only the demon remembers them. But what if the reason Katie is now Caitlin, and assuming this, Jamie is now Jameson, a part of them was taken as a result of encountering the demon and surviving it, and reality filled in the gaps, just like the trees in the spaces where towns used to be. Unless I'm overthinking this, and Caitlin Ross is just Katie, like is just the full name of Katie.
Yeah, maybe Jameson is his full name.
And Jameson Scott is just Jamie's full name. Kids like to do that all the time, like make shorter names for their.
Yeah, I used to call you Cult.
Yeah, and now, but like or RC, like
yeah,
but like instead of Review Cultist, because it's a very long name, or like how we call you, like Ted. When your name's Theodore.
Yeah.
Or like how we'd call just Mikey rather than do the full like Mikey. The E stands for evil.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I do have
so
another theory as well, though.
oh, okay. Well, I'd like to hear it now.
Okay. Well,
It's
the other
associated
theory,
to the though.
yeah. Actually, where is that one? Oh yeah. Okay. This quote here. At some point in history, Metatraxus grew tired of being unknown and unworshipped. He proclaimed that those who prayed to him and brought him sacrifice would not only be spared, but also be given gifts of everlasting youth and resilience. So,
Mhm.
that's how Katie and Jamie survived. Metatraxus saw them as giving him their town as a sacrifice. And that's also why Katie keeps saying that she looks younger than she actually is. Because they're basically both cultists of Metatraxus now. Not
Unwittingly.
intentionally,
Yeah.
but they are.
See, there was a fleeting idea I had for Jamie is like, I wonder if Jamie has been working with Metatraxus and that's why he became such a wealthy businessman.
My next one, if you haven't yet heard, or if you haven't yet had a chance to see the statue of Metatraxus, I encourage you to experience it before it's shipped to New York next month. So I read that, I'm like, oh shit. So Jamie has possibly become a cultist to Metatraxus because, like, I bet he's shipping him off to New York so he can feed on the whole fucking town. Because why would he ship it off to New York? You know,
Yeah.
you figured he could just ship it around to small places to kind of like keep it away from big centers, but he's literally putting it in New York City. He's putting it there as a bomb.
Yeah, or
So
like basically,
this way Jamie can be rewarded with like godhood or demonhood, I guess, or something.
Or maybe like I just thought something like it just clicked right now. Katie has been saying this entire time like it's as if she's been like drawn here, or like with the flyer like showing up as if it's like by divine providence. What if Jamie's deal with Metatraxus is to bring Katie back to him? And it's just some kind of like, but he requires like, again, being taken to like New York or something like that, or like he requires a larger sacrifice for bringing them together again. Kind of thing.
Why is he such an idiot in regards to not seeing that it's her?
Well, no, I don't think I'm pretty sure like as soon as he heard Caitlin Ross, he seemed to like go into like confusion rather than shock and surprise. So like I think he knows that Caitlin is Katie.
Why would he be confused if he made a deal to get her there?
Well, again, that was just like part of my that was just like a fleeting idea I had. Like I don't know if that's actually true. But
anything, what it might be is literally like the gods in heaven directing her to thwart Metatraxus because he's a fucking devil.
Yeah, because it's very weird. It feels like Jamie is both like there's two sides of this coin. Like it's either going to be that Jamie has been using Metatraxus to gain like wealth and power and stuff like that, like, or he's been telling the whole truth that he is actually keeping it at bay because he can't destroy it. And maybe he's getting some kind of boon as a result of that, but it's like he's not working for it because she describes him as like he puts on a face when he's doing the presentation, but he clearly looks like he's super stressed and like having to deal with a bunch of like stuff beyond his years. So it's like, is he stressed because like of the weight of like keeping this creature at bay, or because he feels guilty about all the people he's erased from reality because he's making a deal with Metatraxus?
Probably the latter.
I don't know. I honestly don't know where this.
I'm theorizing that the next stop in New York is to wipe out the town.
Well, that perhaps, yeah. That's the thing. I honestly don't know where the next one's gonna go, like in terms of like Jamie's like goals or like true intentions. And I'm really here for it. Like I want to find out what happens next. But yeah, so all that from like Jameson Scott. I'd heard that name. It's Jamie.
Yeah. Like the name got dropped. I'm like, oh, so it's Jamie, your childhood friend, of course. And then like a couple lines later, it's like Jameson Scott. I knew that name, but from where? And I wrote down your friend from childhood, of course. And then later on, it's like he was young, my age, but wealthy, blah 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 blah.
So Jamie, your friend.
But the Wikipedia page has no picture, so there's no picture on this popular and important man because you want to save the reveal that this is your childhood friend, of course.
Yeah, no, it's seriously
with the
like
statue. How did he acquire it? How do you know the wards? No, this made sense. Well, the statue killed the town you both grew up in. He tracked it down and captured it since it killed his town. He knew about the wards because he was there with you. all of this makes sense instead of none of this makes sense.
Yeah, it feels at the same time, like, as much as I love it, it also feels like this is too much of a, like, what's going on here? I don't understand. like,
Yeah.
like it's
Very
almost
much
too
March from
like,
the room or just beating a dead
yeah,
horse.
it's almost like too obvious to
But
me.
maybe
Yeah.
that's
Well-
because it's not actually the truth.
Yeah,
It's
we're
all
gonna
right
Well-
there.
if we're wrong, like, last time, first off, I'm gonna have to give like the golf clap to C.K. Walker, because like that was impressive. Like that like sudden, like, red herring is like, you thought it was this, turns out it was this.
Yep. This whole
It's
thing
like,
is just look at
yeah.
this. Look at this over here.
yeah.
Well, the other thing is that she has encountered the demon before. So what if part of her self has been forgotten?
That's where I speculate, like, why her name is Caitlin. Now
Well-
not Katie, and why his name is Jameson, not Jamie's, because
Well,
like that.
no, it's not that. Well, because Caitlin can shorten to Katie, like
Yeah.
it's as we explained.
Like, yeah.
So I'm fine with that. And I mean, the problem is that when you're 12 years old and you have a friend, you remember the full name of that friend, not just what you called them.
Yeah.
So there has to be, like, what if because she was part of that town and that town is no more, part of her is lost.
Because she was
And
only
that's
part of the
why
town. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so the reason she doesn't remember the name is because both of them have forgotten each other.
Oh, I mean, that could be it. Yeah. Also, I don't mean to.
She remembers him though.
Yeah, she does remember Jamie.
Well,
Also,
she
just
remembers the name Jamie, but
doesn't
it's
remember.
been years.
Yeah.
And doesn't remember other details. Like, the only reason she remembered Jamie is because she had the police report above her bed until it faded away.
Yeah. But yeah,
So all she has is a name that she can remember. Like, she's forgotten the face, obviously.
I feel like she would know the last name though.
well,
Yeah,
not to sound like somebody who's a bad friend. As a kid growing up, I never remembered my friends' last names. Like,
Wow.
when I was like 12 and stuff like that, like I like around that age group level, I never remember people. I never asked people's last names. I always like, like, oh, it's Michael's name, or it's Trevor's, or it's Trevor's mom, or like we're gonna go to Trevor's place. Oh, well, what's their last name? I don't know.
Fair.
Wow.
I do have.
Uh,
I recall a few friends that I do not remember their last name.
well, I had to remember last names because some of my friends, that there was other people with the same first name in the classes, so you had
Wow.
to remember what their last name was to differentiate between the two.
Yes, like I remember that one year when everybody all the demons named their kid Beelzebub.
Right.
Mhm.
So you had so many Beelzebubs in class. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep. I mean, it's a popular name, so
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
oh.
it's right up there in the Goetia records. Anyway, yeah, honestly, I'm gonna be very curious. Like, if we get a reveal about like like, I'm very interested when we get how the reveal is gonna go down of like that Jameson is in fact Jamie. And like how much Katie's going to react to it. Is like, is she going to be like, my God, it was all there, it's so obvious, why didn't I see it? Or it's like, it must have been the demons taking of identities and such, or something like that. But yeah, we'll have to see in the third part of the story.
Also, like, with how early Jameson Scott's name is dropped, and how early I'm like, okay, it's probably Jamie. And
Yeah.
then, like, I read through the entire story, And like I put an edit at the end of this saying, "Oh my god, they went the whole entry without revealing this. Fuck."
Yeah, I know, right? I was wondering if they were gonna reveal, like, especially when it's like when they're having this talk in the study and so was he gonna reveal it then? It's like, no, he doesn't. It's like, oh shit. Like I even went back to the other story, like to the previous part, and looked at, did we ever get Jamie's last name as Scott? Because for some reason, like after I realized like Jameson is probably Jamie, I was like, wasn't Jamie's last name Scott? But like I went back and there is
name for the first one.
No, there is no last name. Although for some reason, like I guess I was like false memorying because I was like thinking that I had heard Katie Ross and Jamie Scott now, but no, it's not mentioned in the previous story. As far as like a find, like a search, like a word search can show. So, but yeah, I'll move on to the next thing I have. My apartments are only a block away. Perhaps we should speak more in my study. This isn't a conversation for anyone to overhear. I noted the finality in his voice and, nodding, sat back in my seat. As long as I got to say what I'd come to say, I didn't care where we went. I guess she's just had it from like a decade's worth of anxiety and guilt and traumatization from this whole thing. But like, even when she got into the car of this guy who was in the know pretty quick about like when she says like your wards, like it's like I know about the wards and stuff like that, and the car stops and then like she goes back up to it and then he like just moves over and like lets her get in. Like she's being real cavalier about getting into this guy's car where like she could just be silenced, like
yeah,
like no witnesses. And the whole time I was just like thinking that even like she's got some cojones on her when she's dealing with the bodyguard in the study too.
Oh yeah.
Like that guy is like the way he's described is like this like really like no nonsense like 9mm retirement plan sort of guy. And she's just staring him down and such. It's ridiculous. But I guess like maybe she's just had it so she doesn't care what happens to her. And she's just and now that because of that she's like can be a little bit more cavalier about her whole situation. So and then the last thing I have for my actual thoughts is that fucking plan of hers at the end. So I'm gonna just go with this quote here. But I knew I had to see it again. Perhaps I could prove to him just how dangerous that thing was, regardless of the precautions he was taking. I needed to convince him to take the statue off display before more people died. How are you going to do that? By accidentally setting it loose, maybe getting devoured in the process, and having the town of Landenberg wiped out as well? Great way to protect people from dying by getting them killed. What is Kate's plan here?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Like seriously, it really felt to me like Jameson and his group are like have this whole thing in hand, and unless like he even like sounds like he's being truthful to her from her point of view. Like she says, like he seems really sincere and stuff of that. What is he hiding? I mean, aside from the fact that he's actually Jamie and knows that I'm Katie.
That technically,
we don't know that, but like it really aside from unless there's like going to be a surprise like reveal that like he's like actually working with Metaraxis or something like that. It really felt like it seems like he's doing everything he can to stop this thing from like getting out and shipping
it to New York City.
That is the only, well, again, maybe it does actually desire to be like moved to like and get adoration from other people and stuff like that. So but yeah, I get like I don't really like her plan here. It's like I need to show him the danger of this creature by
unleashing it
by causing it to break out by my own hand. Prove to him that somebody could do it. I'll do it myself.
Technically, she didn't say that she wants to break all the bonds and let them out. She just wants to basically go there and just like flip them off and basically taunt
just get him to move an inch. Yeah, but like what purpose?
Yeah, like if he can move an inch, he can move a mile.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's still like, and then so he proves that to Jameson. It's like, yeah, he can move within the confines of that space. he's fine.
Yeah,
like
that's the other thing.
but yeah, I just I just kept thinking it's like I'm gonna show him the danger that he's putting these people into by putting all these people in danger.
It is pretty
It's a
dumb
very
when you say it like that.
it's a really like dumb supervillain sort of like thinking. Like when the villain
Yeah.
doesn't think that they're the supervillain.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
If Jameson didn't believe that it was actually a demon and it was just a statue, okay.
Yeah,
You want
of
to prove
course.
it to him, fine. But he
That-
knows.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's the one that put like he tried to destroy it. He said it himself. He tried to destroy it, and he cost him a lot of stuff. And then so he then found this way where, and he had the funds to get a bunch of symbologists and arcanologists and occult whatever, to help him like advise him on how to deal with this thing. And this was the best plan they could think of. He's in the know. He knows what he's doing.
More than she does.
Yeah, she's just a traumatized woman that has spent the last 13 years dealing with the trauma of like seeing this creature and having having the knowledge that this thing wipes out cities with from reality. And
Jameson has been spending that time researching and getting in contact
Yeah.
with people who know.
it's and like during that 13 years, she also ended up like becoming an alcoholic, a drug user, and a bartender and stuff like that. Meanwhile, and getting
offenses.
no offense to that, but it's just like
Yeah,
she did nothing to try and stop the situation except get the fuck away from it. Meanwhile,
Yes.
Jamie's out there who's lost the town he lived in because this girl from like over a summer who he met only for a summer, him and her unleashed a demon, and he actually became proactive in trying to stop it.
Katie really is the true like.
I
evil.
kind of what?
She ruined
Oh, yeah.
everything.
Well, I was like, for some reason I thought you said Jamie is the real evil. I was like, what?
No,
No.
Katie.
Yeah, no, Katie's basically like chaos, like the chaos factor, the wild card factor in this
Yep.
in this plan. Jamie,
Chaos.
and I wonder if like that's gonna be like the horror setup in the next one is like things were perfectly fine until Katie decided, nah, this
Fuck it
has
up
to
again.
like I need to prove to you that this thing is bad, even though you know that this thing is bad. Release.
Yeah.
It's like, why, Jamie? Why, Katie? Why? It's like, because chaos.
Plot demanded it.
Yeah, the plot demands suffering and drama. Yeah, it's like I kind of worry that like this. That's one of my worries for the end of the story is that it's going to end up that like the disaster was completely preventable if Katie wasn't in the picture.
Yeah. I kind of wish in the second story it swapped to Jamie as the perspective. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
that would have been really
he's
interesting.
doing all the good work, and then Katie shows up. It's like, oh, hang on, don't.
Yeah, and then
touch
this mysterious hooded lady shows up and like it's like, what's your name? Caitlin Ross. Fuck.
that.
She's back.
She's gonna screw up my life again.
She kind of did. She's also actually even in the first one when they were 12 years old. She was a manipulative little bitch
Yeah, straight up.
because she like used his sincere crush on her to get him to go out into the woods and look for the weird missing town. And mind you, Jamie kind of started acting like way more like enthusiastic about exploring the town than Katie. But like, yeah, it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my actual thoughts.
Our
So what?
That's our hero.
Yeah, that's our hero, and that's my actual thoughts. So, Mikey, D stands for evil. What have you got for actual thoughts?
All right. So I've already talked about how they've forgotten each other because of the monster. So another spot here is something I had to look up.
Okay.
So the quote here: "Easy, Christian Grey." I rolled my eyes. I was like, "Who the heck is Christian
You didn't know
Grey?"
who that was.
I didn't either. I just didn't bother looking it up.
Now
So-
I feel even dirtier. Hey, keep going. What is it?
Yeah, so I looked it up, and it's the butt plug guy.
Yeah, it's
'Cause
the guy from the Twilight fan fiction 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The only thing I know about that series is that it's a lot of smut, and there's a butt plug involved.
Yeah,
So-
and it was basically a fan fiction made based off of Twilight.
Wait, does that mean that because you're doing the Twilight series, you're gonna end
No,
up
we
doing
are
that?
absolutely. I 100% veto 50 Shades of Grey book reading. I will not read that book. Absolutely not.
Someone wants to go to our Patreon.
No. I don't even care if somebody like puts a Patreon and asks us to do it. I am not doing it. Hard veto.
It's true horror, though.
I'm willing to do vampires. I'm not willing to do torture dungeons
Okay, yeah.
or torture dungeon like smut fan fiction.
You gotta have your limits.
Exactly.
You're using your safe word right now.
Oh god.
To get out of it.
I will nope the fuck off this podcast if I have to.
Yeah. And then my next extra thought here is that I don't like that it ends on a cliffhanger, but I do like that there's more. So it's not just it's done, haha, cliffhanger. No, there's more. So
Tune in next time.
yeah.
Yep. Also, when I was doing research, like just checking ahead of the story, the third one is the finale. The Facebook link that's at the end of this story, at the end of all these parts, apparently that is actually just C.K.Walker's like official Facebook page.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically like an author's link to the for the story. So yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, the story is actually a trilogy of 3 short stories.
And that's the end of my actual thoughts.
Okay. Ted, the gamer.
What do I have left? Let's see. Eager to be done with it, I hadn't bothered to ask where to find room 217. So, you're eager to be done with this, but you don't take any directions at all. So you're making this as hard as possible on yourself to make it take as long as possible to find your room. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really like not very prepared for an investigation. She spent a year like memorizing maps and like researching various townships and stuff like that. But like she did like half the homework in her investigation. Everything else she ignores everything else.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then we get on to this where she refers to the creatures. She says, "So the creature, as I've taken to calling it." That's like how she refers to it.
Yeah.
I read that. I'm like, that's it? The creature? It seems very bland. Like hell, even calling it a demon, as you did earlier, was bland, but even less so than this.
Yeah.
Like after 13 years of time of being traumatized by this, and that's the name you give it to it? Like, for the record, I don't really care that she just called it the creature before, but the layout of that sentence is like she just said a proper name for it.
Yeah. It is very, very odd. Yeah.
Granted, it gets a cool name later, so that's fine.
Yeah. I did not look up to see if Metaraxis was in any of like demonology. I assume it's fictionalized because like it repeatedly says that this thing is very unknown and stuff like that in like the demon circles and stuff like that. So I didn't even bother checking.
It kind of ruins the immersion of it.
Yeah, I didn't even bother like looking my various like demon books for and demon encyclopedias for Metaraxis. Also, Metaraxis just sounds metal as fuck.
It really does. Metal Raxus.
Metal Raxus.
That's its cousin. Metal Raxus.
Metal Raxus is just it's all metal counterpart that you have to fight during various levels in the video game.
Yeah.
It's like Metal Mario and Metal Knight or Meta Knight.
100%.
Yep.
But moving on. In regards to the creature, the quote is, "It could technically, quote-unquote, give life in the process of filling in the hole of previous existence, but not very good life. The fauna in these spots was weaker and bore dull, almost muted coloring." Personally, I like this explanation.
Yeah.
I don't know if we straight up said whether we liked it or not, but I really do.
I'm a
And
fan.
it's also it's very good for immersion purposes too, because like you could be driving down a road and see a sick patch of plant life beside you and think nothing of it. Meanwhile, there used to be a house there before the deletion demon got it.
Yeah, or it's basically like basically oh my god, it's basically like a biblically accurate orbital ret cannon.
Yeah.
Now just picturing a biblically accurate angel, just like it's like, oh fuck, Metarex is at it again.
Yeah. Sorry, you caught me in the middle of a yawn. Yep. Totally. And then my favorite part here. I threw in my notes, my phone, and my GPS in my backpack, and decided to start with the front desk of the motel, much to my own dread. I hope to God that this GPS isn't used, and it is not. This is two stories in, and no GPS has been used. I hope we get through the entire thing with no GPSs, even though it's referenced every time.
Yeah, it's the it's like a reverse fuck, what the hell's that?
You said this last recording.
I know I did. God damn it. Yeah, it's a reverse Chekhov's gun. Every time a GPS, it's a Vokage's GPS. Every time if a GPS is showed in the first act, it cannot be used at all throughout the rest of the story.
Nope, never.
Do you see what I did there? You know, I tried to reverse Chekhov.
Yeah, I tried.
With yeah, it was like Vokage. Anyway,
it really doesn't roll off the tongue very well.
Vokage. Anyway, so I'm sorry.
It's fine. And then, in regards to seeing the statue again, its tail was paused in midair instead of wrapped idly around its legs as it had been before. In the previous entry, I thought it said that the tail was wrapped around the entire room.
That's
like,
I
would
remember
imagine the tail circled the outside of the room, or it's just so long that it's like snaking through the room and they had to like climb over it and shit.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
Also, when she describes like how big it is now, it's like I remember it being 12 feet tall. Now it's like more like 20. It's like, well, it has eaten a couple of cities.
True.
It's a growing demon.
Yeah, that might actually just be the case.
Yeah.
I thought it might have just been like, just like unreliable memories, basically,
Maybe,
or like a different environment, and it was dark, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it could go either way, honestly. Like it might have started
down in that basement.
That's also true. Also, it might have started off as an imp, like an imp-sized thing, back in the day when it was first like being worshipped, and then it ate a couple of Atlantises, and then now it became a 12-foot tall demon.
Mm-hmm.
It ate its Wheaties, and by Wheaties I mean people in cities.
Yep. Then this next part I actually mentioned. Then it's Jamie. We get it. That's
I was so happy. Like I was like literally in my notes like I can't be the only one, right?
Yeah. I'd have to be like critical levels of dumbness to miss this.
And you are not.
I wouldn't put it past me though.
Oh,
he's fine. Anyway, that's the end of my notes because I chipped in on everything else.
Okay. Well, let's move on to final thoughts. So, I really liked it. The investigation, searching, and like meeting of Jameson, and like going to the investigation with the museum, the all the weird town, all the missing towns, and then like going to Landenberg and like all the museum stuff, and discovering Jameson's knowledge and precautions with dealing with the demon. That was all really cool, and I really liked that. Though Caitlin's plan at the end seems the most ill-advised I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like again, I have to
sort of plan as like a Marvel villain.
Yeah,
like making up some ancient, like super.
Also, I hate to say it, she also has the same kind of like logic as a player in a D&D game. Sometimes,
how dare you?
Sometimes that's like what happens. That's all the GMs
that recently.
Of course not. No, why would you?
In a Star Wars game,
you certainly didn't accidentally unleash a bound Star Weird upon the galaxy when you were exploring the ruins of a sunken temple where an ancient race was keeping the Star Weird at bay and drained, waiting for the time when it was right to use a special lightsaber to cut it down and kill it for good, which is the whole reason that you were sent out to that temple by a Force ghost. Certainly,
Maybe if
that was not the case.
If theoretically this happened, maybe the Force Ghost should have been clear with his instructions instead of saying, it's spooky here, go there for reasons.
Well, I mean, hypothetically, that character was Crazy Carl.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Or whatever
He is there.
yeah, whatever his character was, or whatever his name was in the Star Wars version of the game. But that's all hypothetical. So
yeah. Very specific, but all hypothetical.
If you'd like to listen to some of our gaming shenanigans, please go to One Less Die, our sister podcast, which is a podcast of actual play games of tabletop variety. Plug. But yeah, no. So yeah, the most ill-advised plan, kind of like it didn't ruin the ending, but I was like, this is so ill-advised. We're basically just gonna deal with the consequences of these actions next episode.
Yeah.
But
so what's the next one called? Like,
it's called The Death of Deepwood.
Oh yeah, sounds about right. With the shit that she's doing.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So with all that said, though, I will still recommend this, even though it does need some work editing wise, like grammar and stuff. There was a bunch of like small, minor typos that really should have been caught earlier, but it didn't ruin the story for me. Like, I was here for it. I was here for the story, not for the grammar issues. Like, I was able to like go past them. I'm still really curious what's going to transpire next episode and next story, and what is going to be revealed in the finale. Like, exactly how are things going to shake up? I'm still here for that. So I will still recommend this story as part of the overall like Deepwood saga or Deepwood trilogy. So yeah, Mikey, the E stands for evil.
All right. So it was an interesting story, but for me, it's only a conditional recommendation because we end on a cliffhanger. If the next story doesn't resolve that cliffhanger, then we have an issue.
Oh man, what if next episode? What if the next story starts from the point of view of Jameson because Katie did a bad?
Yep, I can see it.
Like it's basically like Katie did something, and now Jameson and his crew have to deal with it.
That'd be interesting.
That would be.
But yeah, the way it is, like the ending bit seems rushed because it just goes from the museum straight to the lecture hall. And as we know, she had trouble getting to her room at the motel earlier. So
yes. But she's like, the story's gonna like end up with her just like trying to be like Solid Snake, and then just like getting caught by the security guards at the museum.
Yeah.
Next episode. So I'm in prison now. Or I'm in the town jail now for breaking and entering.
Yeah. So
I'm in a nearby town's jail because I erased the previous town.
So Landenberg doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I'm gonna leave it.
Okay.
Like it's nothing really happens other than we get more story. But the creepiest portion of this was the statue in the museum that had eyes only for her.
Yeah, this was all set up. This was all, I think, set up for the next story.
Yeah, it's all set up. So I really hope it pays out in the next story. But as its own, to me, it's not enough. So that's why this is a conditional recommendation based on whatever the next story is. And we know there's a next story, so I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. All right. And Ted the Gamer.
I'm gonna leave it as a partial still, because like the story started out well enough, but as soon as the story beat me over the head with like what's going to happen and where Jamie is, I found I was simply reading to just try to get to the point where Katie realizes that Jameson is Jamie.
And then
It
she
never
didn't.
came either, and it bugged the hell out of me the
You
whole
got
time.
you got narrative blue balls.
I really did. I hated it. So
Wait, you
for
don't
me,
like to be edged? No.
no, nah, I'll pass. But for me, the story needs to dial back on the foreshadowing a lot, unless this is intentional because it's not foreshadowing; it's a red herring. Fine, but like, change the dude's name to something very different, so it's actually a new character. Because there's more than two people in the world, and hell, there's more than two Jamies in the world. So like, it could still be a different guy. It's entirely possible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it may not. It'd be funny if it was actually like Jamie. Like we were just like, oh, this is totally Jamie. It's got to be Jamie. And the next time was like, no, Jamie died. Like along with the town that you lived in, Middlesbrough.
Yeah, I don't even know him.
Yeah, I'm literally just a guy, just another a guy named Jameson who like has an interest in symbology and ancient artifacts.
Who happened to also lose some feminine friend.
Yeah.
The previous town that was wiped. It's all just coincidence.
Yeah, her name was Sarah.
Of course it was Sarah. But yeah, where the hell was it?
Sorry.
Back and forth chat. I mean, felt like I was reading the acting out of it, beating a dead horse. Yeah, in story form. Yeah, that's basically how it is. But for all I know, it could be wrong. It's not Jamie. But yeah. All that aside, though, if I just forget about the annoyance of that, the story itself was good. It gave us a name for the creature. I like how it described, like there's lore that we learn about him.
Yeah, it's straight up.
Why he is the way he is, why he wipes out towns. It gave me at least a reason as to why Jamie and Katie are still alive and they didn't get wiped out, because they technically offered their town to him accidentally by freeing him. He rewarded them for freeing him. So that's all cool. I liked all that. Just a dead horse, man.
Yeah, no, it was like, it's Jamie. It's Katie, it's Jamie. Sorry, Caitlin, it's Jamie.
Yeah. It just, every instance, it just kept bugging me.
Sorry, I know I'm speaking of kicking dead horses. I know, like, so the other thing that kind of caught me was her name was Caitlin, and she went by it for a minute at the beginning of the story. I thought she was going by like an alias, because Katie in the first part was K-A-T, or it started with a K, and Caitlin in this part in this story starts with a C. So it had me like what's going on here? Like, is this like, this is clearly the same character from the previous story, but her name's Caitlin now with a C rather than Katie with a K.
Would you spell Katie with a C? I've never seen it that way.
No, in the first story, it was Katie.
I understand that. In real life, anyone who goes regardless of what their real name is, they're not going to be spelling it with a C.
No, I know you don't know that. First off,
I know that for a fact.
No, I think honestly there is probably somebody out there who has a short formed version of Caitlin named Katie with a C.
Probably, but generally it's probably a K.
I guess, but it still seemed weird to me that there was that much of a difference. I was like, what's going? Like, that's why I went on that whole like deep theory of like that like their names had actually been like half erased from reality.
Yep.
Or like haphazardly like put back on
with different names. Like if they are if they're both the same characters.
Oh my god!
All explained.
Yeah,
if it's not explained why they're using different names, it's gonna bug the hell out of me too.
Well, again, it could just be like we said, like it could just be as mundane as like
that's their actual name.
Their kid when they were kids, they called each other Katie and Jamie. Now that they're young adults, they're Caitlin and Jameson.
Yes.
I just had like another thought that you're probably gonna hate me for.
Probably.
What if it's like Phantom Dust, and one or both of them were wiped away, were wiped from reality, and these characters are just the fill-ins from reality?
Wow. I don't hate you at all. I love you right now. You
Whoa.
represent
In a way that works, kind of like, what
Yeah.
if these are actually just like they are not, they are copies of Katie and Jamie, because like their town was wiped and they were, but because like one moved and the other one like had a bond with that person, like maybe because that bond, there was an anomaly in the wiping system, and so like when it filled in the gaps in reality, Caitlin and Jameson were suddenly formed.
Yeah, because like right after the event, Katie immediately bailed with her family.
Yeah, they left a few days earlier too. In fact,
Huh?
they left a few days earlier than scheduled. In fact,
Yes.
Yeah.
But because Jamie stayed there, like the possession or whatever the hell's going on, or
Mhm.
recreation of him could actually take hold properly. But for her,
Yeah.
it was only like partially done. I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see. I'm really curious to see how the next game, or how the next game kind of feels like this is the plot of a Call of Cthulhu scenario, honestly. But yeah, I am very curious how the story is going to play out to its finale.
We'll find out.
Mm-hmm. So you're still going with the partial recommendation?
Yeah, just because of the shadowing slash red herring.
Yeah,
it's a little much.
I can understand. I was here. I acknowledge all the stuff that you guys are like throwing at it. Like it's like, because I also agree, but at the same time, it's like it compels me, and like I still really dig it. So like I'm not. It didn't. I acknowledge that there's flaws, but I still enjoy the story, so I can't just like partially recommend it. So.
I was that guy in the back of the movie theater yelling at the protagonist to not go in that room.
Yeah, that's true.
For the whole movie.
Yeah. There were people throwing popcorn at you.
Yeah.
All right. So
popcorn at that point, so I was just catching it in my cup. Is it a cup? Bucket?
Yeah, cup. Yeah, popcorn bag.
Bag? Yeah, they're bags. Yes. I've been to the movies recently. Shut up.
It's okay, Ted. Anyway, so yeah, I guess that'll be a recommendation, a conditional recommendation, assuming the story plays out to its to Mikey's expectations in the next one, or yes. A partial recommendation.
Yes.
So again, use your best judgment with these recommendations. If you feel, we're not your parents, so like do what you want. These are just suggestions.
Yeah.
But that'll do it for this week's episode. If you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted. We're all on Twitter. Mikey's at the E Stands for Evil. Ted's at the Gamer in Yellow, but without the W at the end because his name's very long for some reason.
Yeah, I tried to get my name, but it was taken, and I didn't want to like. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very weird.
I didn't want to put a bunch of numbers and underscores and shit in it, so I tried something different.
Okay. And I'm at Review Cultist.
That's why I have to explain that every time.
I know. It's very odd.
Yeah.
And Review Cultist is also on Blue Sky, where I also post and retweet various creepypasta things and spooky things. If you'd like to send us an email, you can go to aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com, where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah! And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon, select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tiers with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void. And without the stories that you write and post on Reddit, NoSleep, or Creepypasta wikis, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we have nothing to talk about or enjoy. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, D stands for Evil.
I'm Ted the Gamer.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well. Hang on a second. I'm gonna take a quick break because my dog is like contemplating jumping down the stairs. like like, can I do this, or am I gonna just slide down the stairs? In fact, I'm gonna take you guys with me as I go wireless.
Nice.
Hey, Lucy, come here. Come on. I'll heave you up. Don't worry. You can just hear me. Whoop. Oh jeez! Oh jeez! Oh.
Don't have it actually happen. It was a joke. It was a joke.
So what happened there was I went to pick her up and she did not like that, so she just just started going down the stairs. She's fine.
Your joke almost became real.
But like, well, because there's a couple, like, over the weekend, like, she tried going down the stairs and she I was in my room and all I heard from the hallway is like and I went running and all I saw was like the carpet had been pulled away and she was just like shaking it off.
Yeah.
Had like a minor limp, but yeah, no, she made it down safe and sound. Just she did not want me to pick her up.
Amazing comedic timing.
Yeah. I think if she could talk and be like, no, I'll do it. I got this. For real, Jesus.